members of the media are already here, and the cameras have been set up. And aside from people from different media networks, we also saw a lot of reporters from newspapers and even online news websites. We've also seen a few supporters who are coming in, and we were asking them if they were relatives, but some were just saying that they're just supporters. Also, we were told that the Vice President is not yet here at her office, but she's already on her way, so we'll be expecting her in a few minutes. I also haven't seen any of her daughters or any other members of the family. This will, of course, be the first time that Vice President Robredo will be addressing the media and will be giving a public statement. After just this afternoon, we heard from Malacanang that President Duterte had accepted her resignation from the cabinet with a heavy heart. Earlier today, Robredo also formalized her resignation by submitting a resignation letter to Malacanang, where she said that she had exerted all efforts to work with the cabinet, with the president, try to set aside their differences, but that upon receiving a text message from Cabinet Secretary June Evasco yesterday that asking her to desist from attending all cabinet meetings starting today, she felt that it would be impossible for her to do her job as chair of Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council. Robredo also, in a previous statement, lined out some issues that she had opposed in the past, including the burial of former President Marcos at Talibingan ng mga Bayani, alleged extrajudicial killings in connection with the war on drugs, and reviving the death penalty. And we will be bringing to you live the statement of the Vice President. We were told that she will be reading a statement first, and then she will be opening up the forum for questions from the media. Yeah?
Yeah, Ruth, like you said, she's going to be reading a statement. Yesterday, she released the statement. This morning, her office released a copy of the letter that she submitted, the letter of resignation that she submitted to the Office of the President this morning at 9:07 a.m. That was received at 9:07 a.m. Do we know how closely the statement she's going to be reading this afternoon will hew to that statement yesterday and the letter this morning?
Yes, we expect her to give statements related to what she released, the resignation letter, and then the press release yesterday, because apart from those written statements or those handed out by her office, she has not spoken in public. We have not seen her give any interviews. And yesterday, a lot of media outlets, even CNN Philippines, was trying to get in touch with her and her staff for an on-cam interview or even a phone interview. But we were told that we just have to wait for this 5 o'clock press conference where the Vice President will be giving a statement and will be answering questions from the media. Pia?
That's right, Ruth. That 5 o'clock press conference you're talking about, we're showing live pictures from where you are and where that press conference is going to be held any moment now. Live pictures, like I said, for those of you just joining us, of the press conference where Vice President Leni Robredo will be reading a statement just after she submitted that resignation letter this morning to the president, and after she released the statement yesterday about resigning as HUD-C chairperson. Ruth, can you tell us more? Are we expecting any, Liberal Party personalities to show up there at the office of the Vice President, Quezon City?
Yes, we haven't seen any of the members or officers of Liberal Party, but some of the lawyers are here, and perhaps probably about what the Vice President said about being warned about a plot to steal the Vice Presidency for her. As you know, there is a pending electoral case filed at the Presidential Electoral Tribunal by Vice Presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos, because Vice President Robredo won by over just 200,000 votes over Marcos, and that case is still pending. So it would be interesting to know why Robredo had said that she sees this plot to unseat her or to plot to steal the Vice Presidency as now being set in motion, which was what she said in her statement yesterday. So we were told that the Vice President is about to enter the briefing room. So we will be on standby now.
All right, let's stand by for that. Ruth Cabal just saying that, our senior correspondent, Ruth Cabal of CNN Philippines, saying that Vice President Leni Robredo is about to enter that briefing room where she's going to be giving that press conference. We're going to see her, and we're going to bring that to you live. Of course, you're seeing those live pictures right now from the Vice President's office in Quezon City. Yesterday, there was that surprise announcement from her that she had received a text message from Secretary to the Cabinet, Evasco, telling her that the Special Assistant to the President, Bongo, had given her or was sending word to her from President Duterte that she had to, quote-unquote, desist from attending any further cabinet meetings. After that statement from her, she said she would be resigning her post as Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council chair, and then she would be sending that letter, which she did this morning. While we're waiting for that press conference to begin, Jan Robert Go, political analyst, is here with us. Jan, thank you very much for being here. Well, what are your first thoughts, while we're waiting to see Vice President Robredo?
First thoughts about her resignation.
Yes, yesterday, when everything started to, well, not that they only unfolded or began yesterday. I mean, there was this long history, but what were your first thoughts yesterday when you first heard that she had received a text message telling her to desist from attending cabinet meetings?
Well, I also read it on Twitter that she resigned yesterday, and I was surprised that it came out yesterday. And well, of course, we know that the president and the vice president already had disagreements, particularly with the Libingan ng mga Bayani issue and the Marcos burial. So maybe this is the way by which the vice president had felt that this is too much already, or maybe it has reached that point that the vice president and the president, as perhaps said by Secretary Andanar, are no longer really in agreement terms.
Well, in the earlier part, of course, we saw how things were a little bit awkward, I suppose, until that first chance meeting. Remember the grandstand of the Armed Forces of the Philippines? This was, I think, the turnover or the assumption of command of General Visaya, Ricardo Visaya. And, well, that was that first chance meeting, and then they had that meeting in Malacanang. So I suppose, people were thinking, okay, maybe they are going to get along. Hindi ba?
But earlier on, we already heard the president giving statements like he is not really compelled to give the vice president any position in his cabinet, or that loyalties are to particular personalities, not necessarily the vice president.
But it's interesting also because there were several pronouncements from Malacanang, statements to the effect that, of course, in a cabinet meeting, not everybody's going to agree on the same thing. And it is all right not to agree in the cabinet meeting, but there should be no public pronouncements about any such opinion that is different from that of the president and of the cabinet. Do you agree with that? I mean, of course, we know iba yung partido nila, di ba? Iba talaga yung pinanggagalingan nila, no? Pero hindi ba dapat na ganoon, or what?
Well, the members of the cabinet are alter egos of the president, so de facto they should be speaking for the president and speaking in line with the president's agenda. But of course, we cannot really avoid that there will be disagreements, and making them public, I think, because the vice president has a separate personality apart from being a member of the cabinet. And if she expresses her opinion personally and and looking at them institutionally, there's nothing that should hinder the vice president from expressing her opinion.
Well, we're still looking at live pictures. A while ago, Ruth Cabal was telling us that the Vice President, Leni Gerona Robredo, was about to walk into that briefing room. I guess she's getting a final briefing also, from her staff, putting some final touches to her statement. And what she's going to face a barrage of questions, I'm sure. Everybody will have questions for her, and this is going to take quite a bit, no? But also, in the last few months, we've seen. All right, I think this is her coming. Yes, this is her coming in that blue suit. She's walking in to the press briefing room, and we're going to listen in right now first.
Ha? Ah, okay.
Maganda po ba siya?
Ay, uy! I miss you!
Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Una sa lahat, maraming salamat po sa pagpunta. Alam namin medyo late, pero simulan na po natin yung press conference. Magbibigay po ng pahayag si Vice President Leni Robredo. Pagkatapos, kukuha po kami ng mga tanong na mga 5 tanong mula sa mga.
Magandang umaga, ay magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Ngayong umaga, sinumit namin sa Malacanang ang sulat ng aking pagbibitiw mula sa gabinete. Ulitin ko. Okay, magandang hapon muli. Sorry, nakalimutan ko yung audio. Ngayong umaga, sinumitin namin sa Malacanang ang sulat ng aking pagbibitiw mula sa gabinete. Nakasaad sa aking sulat na I have exerted all efforts to put aside our differences, maintain a professional working relationship, and work effectively despite the constraints because the Filipino people deserve no less. Tulad ng naipahayag kahapon, kung ako ay hinaharangang dumalo at makibahagi sa mga cabinet meetings, imposible nang magawa ko ang aking tungkulin bilang Housing Secretary. My highest loyalty is to the Constitution and to you, the Filipino people, a vow that both the President and I took when we assumed our offices. This means I must be free to speak my mind, to protect you and your dreams and your future. Ang kapakanan ng ating mga anak ay matitiyak lamang ng isang gobyernong nakikinig na bukas kahit pa sa mga salungat na pananaw. Kaya't lagi nating ipaglalaban ang karapatan ng taong bayan na malayang maipahayag ang kanilang damdamin. Sasanggalan natin sila at ipagtatanggol upang laging manaig ang diwa ng ating batas. Ang tunay na hustisyang walang kinikilala, mayaman man o mahirap, nasa poder man o walang impluensya. Higit sa lahat, buong tapang tayong magmamatsyag at magbabantay nang hindi na maibalik pa ang anumang diktadurya na siyang kumitil sa libo-libong buhay noong Rehimeng Marcos. We have fought this battle before and won. We will never let anyone revise our history and twist it to turn evil into good. Hindi nating hahayaang nakawin ang pagka-vice-presidente sapagkat iyon ay taliwas sa boses ng nakararami. The Vice Presidency is not just about one person. It is about you and your rights. What is at stake here is our collective future. Since we released our statement yesterday, many have asked, what is next? I have sensed despair and anxiety, and always that question, what will happen to us now? This is not the time for fear. It is a time for conviction. It is a time for courage. Along with many of you, I have expressed my strong opposition on issues like the Marcos burial. We still hope that the President will reconsider his position on these issues. We will continue to support policies and actions from this administration if we believe these are right and just and will benefit the last, the least, and the lost. If they don't, we will not hesitate to dissent. Ako po'y naririto para sa inyo. Ako'y mananatili para sa inyo. At patuloy nating bubunuin ang anumang trabaho nang makapag-ambag sa adhikain ng ating gobyerno na solusyonan ang kahirapan at maitaguyod ang pagkakapantay-pantay. As your duly elected Vice President, I will continue to serve with all my strength and passion, confident that in the end, what is right will prevail. Ang mga naganap nitong nakaraang araw ay lalong nagpapatibay sa matagal ko ng paninindigan. Gawin natin ang nararapat kahit gaano kahirap. Maraming salamat po.
We'll now take questions. First,
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Can you tell us, ma'am? Ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sa Marasang DNA 7. Ma'am, can you tell us po, paano po ba talaga nangyari yung mga events leading to your resignation? Noon pa po ba may naranasan na po ba tayong or naramdaman na medyo hindi po tayo welcome? O ito po ba ay naranasan na lang natin eventually yung paggulong na lang po ng mga cabinet meetings?
Alam niyo yung pinakaunang indication na hindi na ako welcome nung Friday afternoon. Galing ako sa Pasay, pauwi ako dito sa opisina. Nag-attend ako ng isang forum sa Palupa at Pabahay sa Pasay. Pabalik ako, tumawag si Yusek Boyet D, yung aking Chief of Staff. Sabi niya nakatanggap daw siyang isang tawag mula sa opisina ni Cabinet Secretary Jun Evasco. Ang sinasabi daw ay pinapasabi daw ni CABSEC na hindi na daw ako pwedeng mag-attend ng cabinet meeting sa Lunes. So ang tanong ko sa kanya, aside from sa tawag, ano ba yung ibang natanggap natin? Ang sabi niya, wala na po, yun lang yung tawag. Sabi ko, yung invitation ba to the cabinet? Nakatanggap ba cabinet meeting? Nakatanggap ba tayo ng written invitation? Sabi niya, opo, twice nga tayo nakatanggap. Kasi kanina lang na umaga, may natanggap pa tayong revised na agenda. So ang sabi ko sa kanya, sabihin mo na kung hindi ako ipapa-attend ng cabinet meeting sa Monday, baka pwede namang isulat nila. Kasi formal na sulat yung natanggap natin na mag-attend. Tapos itatawag lang nila yung bawal na pala ako mag-attend. And then, dumiretso ako dito sa opisina, medyo gabi na yon. Sabi ni Yusek D, kausap niya daw ulit, sabi daw yung pagsulat daw sa akin is out of the question yata. Out of the question yung pagsulat sa akin. So ang sabi ko sa kanya, sabihin mo na pag wala tayo natanggap na sulat, mag-a-attend pa din ako. Kasi one item in the agenda was a discussion of the Yolanda updates. Ano yun nasa resettlement cluster ako. In fact, the whole of Thursday afternoon, I was in Malacanang because I attended the Yolanda Rehabilitation Cabinet Cluster meeting. Ako nga yung pinakamahabang presentation doon. Maayos lahat. Tapos all of a sudden, parang less than a day after, meron ng ganito. Kausap, parang may palitan ng pag-uusap. Sina Yusek Boyet sa kayong office ni CABSEC. Ang sabi daw, hindi daw talaga ako pwedeng mag-attend. So ako, initially I was insisting that I will attend. Kasi sabi ko, baka sabihin na remiss ako sa aking duties. Sabi niya, nakikiusap po ma'am, na wag ka na talagang pumunta so as not to aggravate the situation. So ang sabi ko, what situation? Hindi naman po sinabi. So ako naman, sabi ko, pasiguro lang tayo, pero yung lahat na report ko sa Yolanda, yung dapat sanang dala ko on Monday, isubmit natin first thing on Monday. So natapos na marami kaming trabaho dito, pumasok ako nung Saturday. Saturday morning, meron akong event sa Alabang. After the event in Alabang, pumasok ako dito kasi nagpirma nga ako ng napakaraming mga Certificate of Lot Award for San Fernando, Pampanga. Meron ako 616 pinirmahan. Right after ako magpirma, I received a text message from CABSEC Jun Evasco. I think every one of you saw the message already. Medyo stronger na yung words doon. Ang sabi, to desist from attending cabinet meeting starting Monday. So ako naman, medyo iba na yon. But I was still discussing with my staff, pupunta ba ako o hindi. Ako yung initial reaction ko, kung text message lang, pupunta pa din ako. The following day, I texted Bongo, Sap Bongo, I texted him. Ang sabi ko lang sa kanya, I just need confirmation from the President. Kasi wala akong direct line kay Presidente. When I need to speak to him, I always go through Bongo. Tinetext ko siya. I sent him, I think, 3 or 4 text messages asking for a confirmation from the President. Dati naman sinasagot ako. Pero nung the whole of Sunday, hindi ako sinagot. So I texted CABSEC Jun Evasco. Yung first text ko pa nga, sabi ko, naghihintay ako ng confirmation from the President through Bongo, pero hindi pa ako sinasagot. Hindi din ako sinasagot until nag-discuss kami what we should do. So sinabi ko naman, ako ang instruction from Monday until hindi natin alam, hindi na ako pwede mag-attend ng cabinet meetings. Parang fina-fire na ako. Parang, kasi how will I be able to function na hindi ako mag-attend ng cabinet meetings? Na yung housing, alam nyo naman, is not a department. Yung HUDC is just a coordinating council of many agencies. 6 yung shelter agency sa department namin. Dun sa 6, yung lahat ng recommendations namin, ano na ngayon, 5 months after, wala pa ding na-appoint. Ang may head lang dun sa 6, NHA, kasi yung NHA head was appointed before me. Yung NHA head ngayon was the former planning officer yata of Davao. He was appointed before me, so siya pa lang yung nandun. But all the other shelter agencies, wala pa siyang head. Ito, ilang cabinet meetings ko yata to finalo up. Pabalik-balik din kami following up the appointments. Kasi parang paano makaka-function yung shelter agencies kung wala siyang mga heads. Yung nandun, pina-resign, so holdover capacity. Pero kahit nga wala yung mga heads, nagpa-board meeting na ako sa lahat para lang umusad na yung trabaho. Pero I think parang the handwriting on the wall was already very clear. So, yesterday afternoon, nung hindi ako nakakatanggap ng confirmation from SAP Bongo and from CABSEC June Evasco, I decided to issue the statement and submit my letter of resignation this morning. Parang medyo naguluhan lang ako kasi I think yung statement yata was hindi lang naman ako pinapa-attend pero hindi naman ako tinatanggal. Parang for me, not being able to attend the cabinet meetings makes my prolonged stay as a member of the cabinet already untenable. Kasi marami kaming functions na hindi namin magagawa without the other government agencies. Kaya parang ayoko na maisakripisyo yung housing. Sobrang dami ng problema. Sobrang grabe ng trabahong kailangan gawin. Pag ganito yung relationship namin, mahirap. Yung magsasakripisyo yung tao. Ako, I want to hold on to it sana. Kasi ako naman, ang paniniwala ko, despite the differences between me and the President, makakapagtrabaho naman ako ng maayos. Basta suportahan lang. Pero with this treatment, I don't think I would be able to get the support that HUDC will need. Kaya I decided to resign.
Last na. Ma'am, sorry, you mentioned na rin kanina and sinabi na rin po ni Speaker Alvarez, you were fired? Ganun po ba talaga?
Yung dating sa akin kasi nung una, I was already being eased out. Kasi if you are not being allowed to attend cabinet meetings anymore, ano yung gusto sabihin nun? Siguro kung yung sinabi sa akin, baka pwedeng hindi ka muna mag-attend ng cabinet meeting on Monday, kasi may pag-uusapan kaming sensitive, I would have understood. Pero the first message, yung phone call was until further notice. I cannot attend cabinet meetings from Monday until further notice. Yun yung una. Yung text message sa akin, to desist from attending all cabinet meetings starting Monday. So what does it mean? Diba? So yung sa akin, ang dating nga, they are trying to ease me out. Wala na ding sense. Kasi if they don't want me there anymore, chances are I won't get the support. Pero they cleared it this morning. Last night pa yata. Parang the statement was, I was not being fired, but I was just being asked not to attend cabinet meetings. Naguguluhan ako, hindi ko maintindihan.
Ma'am, sa tingin nyo isa sa reason dahil din sa pagiging LP ninyo, and then nakausap nila po ba yung mga kapatid dun sa decision?
Ako, I can only speculate. Pero yung once I decided already na magre-resign ako, nagpaalam ako sa party leaders. Kasi ayoko namang malaman nila galing pa sa iba. Ayoko malaman nila from other people. So nagpaalam ako sa party leaders. Lahat din nagulat kasi they thought naman na, alam naman nila na maraming kahirapan, marami ding mga hinihingi na hindi nasusuportahan. Pero sa akin kasi yung limitasyon, parang I can still work despite the limitations. So nagulat sila na ganon. They knew that I was so passionate about my work in housing. Halos lahat na waking hours ko, housing na yung inaasikaso ko. 24/7 na halos nagtatrabaho. Kaya when I informed them of my decision, lahat naman nagulat.
Madam VP, yung mga events po sinabi niyo pati language na ginamit. There's a different story tungkol sa sinabi ni Secretary Martin Abdalan kanina. He told the public that the President accepted your resignation with a heavy heart. How do you take it?
Again, I'm confused. Kasi if he is not, kasi if you say heavy heart, parang malungkot siya na nagre-resign ako. Pero di ba yung hindi sa akin pagpa-attend ng cabinet meeting, parang yung writing on the wall nga, ayaw na nila ako nandun. Alam naman natin yung cabinet position, kami yung alter ego ng presidente pagdating sa housing. I should have his full trust and confidence. So if you are not trusted enough to let you in sa cabinet meetings, lalong-lalo pa yung cabinet meeting this afternoon. Kasi yung cabinet meeting this afternoon, one item in the agenda is my department.
Prior to your appointment, Madam VP, nagkaroon kayo ng pagkikita kay President Duterte. Ngayon pong araw na ito, walang communication or any feelers for you to talk?
Wala po. Actually, gaya ng sabi ko, yesterday, I was trying to get in touch with him through SAP Bongo. Sinasabi ko kay Bong na I just want to get a confirmation from the President. Pero hindi sinagot yung aking mensahe.
You mentioned in your statement yesterday that there are attempts to steal the Vice President. Can you expand on it? What are the indications that finally made you say categorically?
Ako marami. It was actually a confluence of so many events already. Number one, marami nag-warn. Marami nag-warn that there were people around the President, even people in the cabinet, who did not want me there and wanted Bongbong Marcos instead. Marami ng series of events. If you remember, ang kasama ni Presidente sa Japan, sa China. Ang kasama ni Presidente sa China, si Bongbong Marcos, siya yung pinakilalang Vice President. Pero yung sa akin, lahat ko yun linunok. Kasi yung sa akin, meron akong trabahong gagampanan. Hindi ako pwedeng magpaistorbo sa mga sa ibang mga bagay. Lalo na yung nag-issue ako ng statement, strong statement about the burial of President Marcos. Naging marami na masyadong indications. Pero sa akin yung pinaka nagbigay sa akin ng ideya na bahagi talaga to ng plot. We received the text message Saturday. No one knew about it except a few people in my staff. Kahit yung buong staff ko hindi alam. Siguro hindi nga 10 yung nakakaalam. Kahit nanay ko hindi alam. Pero yung may mga tweets na from the Bongbong Marcos group na nag-goodbye na sa akin. So yung sa akin, anong gusto sabihin nun? Hindi pa nga alam, parang nakakaalam ako, yung mga anak ko, and maybe 5 or 6 people in my staff. Pero may lumabas na sa Twitter saying goodbye to me from their groups. So, ano yung, di ba? Ano yung gustong sabihin nun? Parang, it only confirms what we have been warned about for so long.
Ma'am, follow-up question. Some of your allies, the Liberal Party, are saying that natural course of things is you will become the opposition leader now. Are you ready to embrace that role, to be the opposition catalyst? And how will you live up to that role?
Kasi depende siguro how we define what an opposition leader is. Ako, mag-o-oppose ako sa lahat ng mga polisiya. I think with mas malakas na boses. Mag-o-oppose ako sa lahat ng mga policies na I think detrimental to the Filipino people. Yung aking pag-oppose sa passage ng death penalty, mas malakas na boses. Yung aking pag-oppose sa lowering the age of criminal liability, ganun pa din. Sa extrajudicial killings, malakas pa din. Sa masamang pag-treat sa mga kababaihan, talaga magiging very vocal pa din, gaya ng dati. Pero sa akin, paniniwala ko pa din yung success ng administrasyon na to para din sa ating bansa. Kaya yung mga magagandang bagay na sinasang-ayunan natin still deserve support. Kahit pa ganito yung treatment sa akin, palagay ko hindi na ito tungkol sa akin. Yung obligasyon ko hindi na sa sarili ko, pero yung obligasyon ko para sa pinaninilbihan namin. Meron akong mandato, and palagay ko yung responsibility yun, kailangan mag-transcend sa kahit ano pang politika, kahit ano pang hindi pagkakaintindihan sa paniniwala. Pero parati pa ding kokontra sa mga bagay na hindi ko pinapaniwalaan. Yung sa akin naman, if being an opposition leader entails that, then magiging opposition leader ako. Pero hindi ko inaalis sa sarili ko na yung lahat na mga bagay at programa ng gobyernong ito na kinakailangang suportahan, susuporta pa din ako.
Ma'am, about
Since Department of Global News Network. Not only you were the ones informed of the text message from the Cabinet Secretary, we include the CHED Chair, Patricia Licuanan. So, what does this imply, and what did you think has provoked the President from sending this message to refrain you from the Cabinet meetings?
Ako kasi, wala din ako ideya kung bakit. Pero yung sitwasyon ni CHED Chairman Tati Licuanan is different from mine. Kasi yung CHED, yung kanyang position as CHED Chairman is time-bound. Meron siyang fixed term, hindi gaya sa akin. Meron siyang fixed term. Yung sa akin, talagang I really serve at the pleasure of the President. So pag magpakita ng indikasyon ng Presidente, wala na siyang confidence sa akin, tingin ko obligasyon kong umalis. Kahit ayoko pang umalis. Kasi kung tatanungin niyo ko, ayoko sanang bitawan yung aking posisyon. Ngayon pa, na nakita ko na kung gaano kagrabe yung problema. Ngayon pa na nakita ko na kung ano yung kaya kong gawin para sa housing. Pero again, hindi ko hawak kasi ito eh. Kung binigyan sana ako ng pagkakataon, magawa man lang yung aking gagawin, yun sana yung makakabuti.
Kasi Malacanang spoke about irreconcilable differences. Kung specific po dun sa housing portfolio nyo, ma'am, is there any policy differences po sa inyo ni President Duterte?
Mukhang hindi. Before I went down, tinitingnan ko pa lang yung statements. Pinakita sa akin ng staff ko yung statement ni Sec. Martin Andanar. Nakita namin yung statements ni spokesperson Abella. Pareho sila nagsasabi na they recognized the good things that I did with housing. Mukhang wala silang problema doon. In fact, in-extol nila yung lahat kong ginawa. Kasi I think everyone in the cabinet, kahit siguro yung may ayaw sa akin, would say na pinakita ko kung gaano ako kagrabe magtrabaho. Pinakita ko kung gaano ko ipinaglaban yung lahat na issues patungkol sa housing. So ako, I don't think even the President nor anyone in the cabinet can say na nagkulang ako. Kahit siguro tanungin yung lahat na housing agencies, ako lang siguro yung HADSI chairman na personal na nag-a-attend ng lahat na board meetings. Ako siguro yung HADSI chair na halos maraming araw sa isang linggo na doon talaga ako nag-uopisina. So their statements naman do not in any way imply na yung pagtanggal sa akin was housing connected.
Thank you. Dalawang tanong po. Una, sa pagbibitiw ninyo bilang tagapangasiwa ng HUDCC, magiging Vice President na lang kayo. Ibig sabihin wala na po kayo gagawin. Pangalawa, nagparinig na si Presidente Duterte nung nandoon sa Argentina na pag lumabas yung desisyon ng Korte Suprema ay maaaring magkaroon na tayo ng bagong Vice Presidente. Ano ho ang mga plano nyo? Meron po ba kayong team na gumagawa ng mga plano kung sakasakali na mangyari yung sinabi?
Yung una po, sasalungatin ko lang, hindi siguro dahil hindi na ako HODC, wala na akong gagawin. In fact, if you recall, I was appointed late. Kahit pa po ako hindi pa na-appoint sa HODC, marami na po kami ginagawa sa Office of the Vice President. Meron po kami flagship program, yung Angat Buhay. Ito po yung 5-point anti-poverty program na nakakasana. Umaandar na siya ngayon. And yung sa akin po, yung pagtanggal sa akin sa housing, hindi ko yata maiiwan yung advokasya pagdating sa pabahay. Kaya minute ko po yung aking staff kaninang umaga. Kanina lang po nalaman nung marami from myself yung aking desisyon na pagbibitiw. Sinabi ko na po sa kanila na idadagdag namin na advokasya yung housing. So we will still be working. Siyempre mas mahirap na ngayon kasi hindi na kami yung pinuno. Pero dahil naiintindihan na po namin yung buong problema, magiging very active pa din kami sa housing. Yun naman po pagdating sa kaso, yun po ay nasa PET na ngayon. Meron naman po tayong team of volunteer lawyers na inaasikaso yung kaso. Bawal po para sa amin na i-discuss yung merits ng kaso. Pero yung masasabi ko lang, kami naman basta magiging maayos lang yung proseso, kami po confident, kami papanalunan namin yung protest case. Yung sa akin lang, pakiusap ko din sa taong bayan na huwag tayong magpabaya. Huwag po tayong magpabaya na manakaw yung posisyon sa atin. Kasi pag ninakaw po ito, hindi lang naman ako yung ninakawan, pero buong taong bayan. Kasi ito yung boses ng taong bayan, ito po yung mandato ko po, hindi naman nanggagaling sa Pangulo, yung mandato ko nanggagaling sa mga tao. Pag ito po ay ninakaw sa atin, hindi lang po ako hindi lang ako ang apektado, pero yung buong bayan.
Last two na po, Sir Rambo. Last two. Rambo lang ko yun, NBCXN. Ma'am, nabanggit ko kanina, kahit Saturday, nagtatrabaho kayo.
Kahit po Sunday.
Kahit Sunday. So, ano kaya ang, sa tingin ninyo, implication doon sa mga umaasa, no? Yung nakakarami, lalo na sa Yolanda victims. Paano nyo sasabihin sa kanila, maraming mga kamag-anak to na ito nangyari. At yung sinakbo, hindi natin maiwasan, yung sinakbo ng dami nila. Umaasa po sila doon sa tulong ninyo. But then, all of a sudden, hindi nyo naiwasan, nawala na. No? Anong pakiusap nyo doon po sa kanila?
Ako po, siguro ipapakiusap ko sa ating Pangulo. O kanina po bago ako bumaba, parang naatasan na yata si Capsec na siya muna yung mag-HODC chair. Ako po ipapakiusap ko sa kanila na sana yung mga naumpisahan ituloy. Halimbawa po, ngayon meron po tayong inaasikaso, ilang beses ko din po itong na-discuss sa kanila sa cabinet meetings, na yung dahilan kung bakit napakabagal ng pag-usad ng pabahay sa Yolanda ay dahil din sa government regulations. Marami na po tayo dito na bago. Nagkaroon na tayo ng Memorandum of Agreement with BIR na maiksian yung proseso. Kinukontra po natin yung moratorium ng DAR para po ma-unlock na yung mga lupa para sa pabahay. Ngayon po may iniikot po tayong joint memorandum circular sa mga agencies na pag ito po ay napirmahan lamang, 17,000 houses po kaagad ang katumbas nito. Napakalaki pong mga polisiya yung mga inumpisa natin. Yung mga proseso po dati, halimbawa po yung sa SHFC, 27 documents yung dating kailangan, ngayon 9 na lang. Dati po, it takes 2 to 3 years para sa isang housing project to come into fruition. Ngayon po, sinusubukan namin kayahin na 30 days na lang. Sana po ituloy lang. Kasi sayang naman po yung parang yung pagod na iginugol natin, saka kawawa naman yung mga umaasa. Ngayon po, nagbigay po tayo ng policy na bawal yung demolisyon hanggang wala pang relokasyon. Nagawa po tayo ngayon na policy na bawal na yung tinatapon sa napakalayong lugar yung mga informal settlers. Yung ating pong policy, ang ating priority on-site, kung hindi pwedeng on-site, in-city, kung hindi pwedeng in-city, near-city. Marami po tayong ina-identify na dito po sa Metro Manila, yung direction natin, mga MRBs na, yung mga mid-rise buildings. Natapos na po natin yung inventory ng mga government lands that may be available for housing. Talaga pong matching na lang. Last week lang po, nagpa-meeting po ako sa Metro Manila Mayors at meron na po kaming parang program of work na gagawin para maasikaso na yung buong problema ng pabahay sa Metro Manila. Kaya yung pakiusap ko lang po, sana po matuloy lang yung aming inumpisahan.
Jack? Hello? Hello? Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
There are comments po na here, we understand that Bongbong Marcos is taking account in certain provinces. In certain provinces that you won, had the winning margin. May sasabi po na if you're really confident that you won the election, kahit daw po magka-recount, ikaw pa rin yung lalabas na panalo. Do you share that sentiment? Kasi may mga nagsasabi na if you have nothing to fear, then why are you parang, well, you seem, at least to them, may fears raw po kayo ng recount.
Pero yung fears kasing yun, propaganda ni Bongbong Marcos. Actually, yung sinasabi lang namin, kasi yung basis niya ng recount, marami daw mga lugar na zero siya. Marami mga lugar na zero siya. Pero kung titingnan mo, ilan bang mga lugar yung zero siya, saka zero ako? Sobrang daming lugar ang zero ako. So, ang sinasabi lang namin, kung yung basis mo ng recount yon, di-recount din natin yung mga lugar na zero ako. Yun lang yung sinasabi natin. Hindi na dahil gusto nating harangin yung recount, pero sinasabi lang natin na yung basis niya yata parang hindi naman, 'di ba? Parang hindi naman dapat na basehan kung bakit magkaroon ng recount. So kung ang yung basehan dahil zero ka sa mga lugar, kung titingnan natin, ihilera natin siguro times 3 times 5 yung lugar na zero ako kumpara sa kanya.
Last na po.
Ma'am, the cabinet, several members of the cabinet cited your irreconcilable differences with President Duterte, and also spokesperson Abella said that a cabinet member may express his or her views discreetly and not be adversarial publicly. What do you think this message sends to people like you and other critics and maybe other cabinet members who have opposing views with the president?
Sa akin kasi, in a way, tama din. Kasi, alam niyo, yung cabinet members are supposed to be alter egos of the president. Diba? Lalo na dun sa mga departamentong hawak nila. So, ang inaasahan na nag-share sila ng, sinusuportahan nila yung mga polisiya ng presidente. Yung sa akin, from the very start, it was already clear between the president and myself na marami talaga kami mga bagay na hindi pinagkakaintindihan. Actually, if you recall, when it was first offered to me, when the post was first offered to me, hindi lang kasi naririnig yung boses ko from the other end. But when the president was offering the position to me, I told him I'm interested in the position. But pwede bang pag-usapan muna namin yung parameters? Kasi sasabihin ko sa kanya na meron akong views na hindi pwedeng I will keep my, di ba? I will be silent about. Ang sinasabi ni Presidente, hindi na yun importante. There have been many times that I have expressed my views on extrajudicial killings, on the death penalty, Marcos burial, and always during cabinet meetings, I will tell the President that, thank you, Mr. President, kahit po I'm very vocal about the opposition to certain policies, you have not taken it against me. Naalala ko, sinabi ko yun sa kanya one time when we were about to discuss the Marcos burial issue. Parang I was even assured by the President na huwag kang mag-alala niyan. Wag mo alalahanin. Tingin ko naman beyond, parang aside from those differences in opinions on some things, ang paniniwala ko, we could have worked well together, especially as far as housing is concerned. Maraming mga limitasyon yung housing, but those limitations parang kayang sanggain dahil desidido kang ayusin. Kaya nung sinabing irreconcilable differences, parang nagulat din ako. Nagulat ako na yun yung Senate because during the last, I was there, I think 2 weeks ago. We had a NEDA board meeting. The President was there, I was there. Maayos naman. Trabaho yung pinag-uusapan. Pag trabaho yung pinag-uusapan, wala naman kami disagreement. May disagreement kami sa mga pananaw, may mga disagreement kami sa opinion, pero sa trabaho, wala namang ganun.
Sorry, I just want to step on.
Sige.
Sinabi niyo, ma'am, na it is definitely not housing related what happened. So it is related to the vice president.
Parang sinabi na kasi nila na irreconcilable differences. So I would presume, kasi yung mga hindi lang naman namin pinag-aagrihan, yung pinakamatindi, ito talaga Marcos Burial. Ito talaga yung pinakamatindi, ito yung pinakahuling statement na binigay ko. And after I issued that statement, hindi pa kami ulit nagkakausap.
So this is to pave the way for Bongbong, parang laying the ground.
Parang we can only speculate. Or I think it would also be unfair to the President pag sinabi natin na this is the truth. Parang we yun nakikita, at least ako, yun yung nakikita ko kasi it was the last statement, public statement that I issued. Yun yung pinaka-immediate na dahilan siguro. Kasi if you listen to the statements of Secretary Andanar, Secretary Abella, sila mismo yung nagsasabi it is not housing related.
Sige, maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
Vice President Leni Robredo taking questions from the media after reading that statement to explain what had happened. She had said that this morning she had submitted that letter of resignation to the President. And she also said she reiterated that her highest loyalty is to the Constitution and to the people. She also promised that she would continue to be vigilant, magmamatiyag, quote, magmamatiyag at magbabantay, unquote, against any looming dictatorship. And she also said that she would not allow anyone to steal the vice presidency. During the Q&A portion, quite a bit of several points came up. She was talking about, she said that they had been warned that something like this would happen. She also said that she would continue to oppose policies that are detrimental to the Filipino people, including the death penalty, lowering the age of criminality for children. And she called on the public to protect the vice presidency. Those are some of among the things that Vice President Leni Robredo brought up. Now, this just in, President Duterte has appointed Cabinet Secretary June Evasco to head the Housing and Urban Development Council, or HUDC, to replace Leni Robredo. Communications Secretary Martin Andanar says this is in addition to Evasco's current responsibilities. Let's go back to our guest, political analyst Jan Robert Go. Jan, your thoughts now after hearing Leni Robredo?
Well, the statement of the Vice President the contents are not new. I think she already mentioned many of the points she raised in this statement previously and in several instances. For example, her being critical to certain policies of the Duterte administration, or at least the policies forwarded by the administration. At the same time, her critical collaboration, in a sense, with the administration, supporting certain policies which she deems would be helpful to the majority of the Filipinos.
Well, she called on people to protect the vice presidency. As a matter of fact, over the last few days, few weeks, few months, people would sometimes use hashtag protect VP Leni. There were memes going all around. No, what do you think of that?
Perhaps this was a result of how the Supreme Court decided in the Marcos Burial case, and basically, if that is how the Supreme Court is divided, 9-5-1, And of course, the Supreme Court is sitting as the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, which is hearing or working on the case of Leni Robredo and Bongbong Marcos. There might be this sentiment that the Supreme Court may decide along the same division.
You really think that we can speculate on that? You really think that we can surmise that if the Supreme Court voted this way in the Marcos burial issue, they will vote this same way?
Oh, certainly not.
In the Presidential Electoral Tribunal.
But of course, there are various groups of people, online and offline, of course, which have this kind of speculation. Of course, it doesn't mean that it is true or it will be true, but I think they are working on the safer side. Of course, we cannot conclusively say because there are other considerations. For example, if they will do the recount and it will be proven that Leni Robredo is actually won the elections, then it would not really be sensible if the court will be divided in a different way.
What do you think is the answer to that question? What is it that President Duterte made him lose his trust in Leni Robredo as HADC chair?
Actually, it's not very clear because most of the statements are coming from his press secretary, coming from his presidential communications secretary, and from the cabinet secretary. We have not heard any direct message coming from the president himself, because it's also interesting that it has gone through several people before reaching the vice president, which is quite curious.
Yeah.
Why does it have to go through Bongo always? And well, he is the special assistant to the president, but cannot the president directly tell it to the vice president? I mean, president and vice president are almost in the same level.
Well, of course, this is not the first time that we've had interesting relationship between president and vice president. In recent history, you had Cory Aquino and Doy Laurel. Doy resigning after a while as foreign secretary. You had Erap and Gloria. Gloria taking over after 3 years after Erap was impeached and removed from office. You had Gloria, Tito Ginggona. And then after that, you had Noy Noy and Jojo Binay. No? So, kumbaga hindi ito bago sa atin. No? Medyo sanay na tayo sa ganito. What makes this similar? What makes this different?
Well, since 1987, we have not really had a very perfect pairing of president and vice president, precisely because we're electing them separately. No? Well, except for maybe with the case of Gloria and Noli de Castro, who ran together, but Noli is technically independent, no? And they were just in a coalition.
Well, that's also why I didn't mention that. Anyway, okay.
But for others, for example, Doy Laurel and Cory Aquino, initially they were together. They ran together, actually.
Yes.
But they had several issues internally, and the separation of ways was basically where Doy Laurel would be in the government. And I think Doy Laurel's role was downplayed eventually. That's why there was this separation.
And he did speak out against President Cory Aquino.
Well, of course, the case is quite different in that sense. While there might be parallelism that the vice president resigned from the cabinet, maybe that's the point of similarity. But the diversion from this case is that Leni Robredo was clearly not from the camp of Rodrigo Duterte. That Leni Robredo from the start was already disassociated, and in fact many of the supporters of the president really sees Leni Robredo as not just an outsider, but totally, I mean, in quotations I would put it, an enemy, because she is coming from the Liberal Party.
Brief final words, Jan.
Brief final words, of course, well, we are in a critical stage in our political history. So, of course, the Supreme Court decision as a pet, of course, is something to look out, and we must be open to all views at this point.
Jan Robert Go, political analyst, thank you very much for joining us.